Little Immy clearly had kinky, perverted inclinations from very early on. I had all of these thoughts of, oh my God, I should not be doing this. This is not allowed. This is not okay. Hi, I'm Immy. This is Andy, my boyfriend's channel. We date and sleep with women together, explore sex, kink, BDSM and self-development. We record videos together on this channel too, sharing everything we've learned so you can do it too. So as I just suggested in that little intro, my boyfriend and I have been exploring kink together for years. But where did it start? How did I get into it? That's what I'm talking about today. So I'm going to backtrack to years and years and years ago to my earliest memory of when I think there was maybe a hint that I was into kink, into BDSM, and specifically being submissive. We're talking 4 or 5 years old. Little Immy had dirty inclinations from a very early age, it would seem. So I really liked playing cops and robbers as a kid, but some part of me always wanted to be the robber that was getting caught. You can probably guess where this is going. It was always very innocent. I wanted to get caught and then I wanted to be punished. I was obviously very clear on what I wanted early on, but I liked that dynamic of being told that I was bad, but in a good way. And it was all just play and pretend because in reality, I was a really good kid. I hated getting in trouble. Some part of it clearly intrigued me. Other games that I would also make up, not that it's really a game, but I remember like playing with my friends or my brother and we have to do what the other person says. It was like Simon Says, but it's like, but essentially I don't like using the word slave because that's not what I was thinking at the time, but we're playing this game where I'm stuck, I have to do what I'm told, and then we get to switch at some point. But I definitely recall myself saying, I'll go first. I'll do what you want first. As if it was of benefit to them when really I was trying to get what I wanted from it under the guise of altruism. And when I was caught or got punished, I do remember this feeling of almost needing to pee. And that's the only way I could describe it at the time, and that's how I understood it. But again, some part of me clearly liked that, was interested by it, and wanted to keep doing it. And that's all it ever went. I just wanted to play these games. But those are my early memories, and looking back, it probably suggested that this was something that I was always into. I'm not really sure why. I guess it begs the question of, is this something that we have natural inclinations towards, kink, BDSM, being dominant or being submissive? Maybe. I don't know. But I do think it's interesting to notice, I guess, early indicators. I guess the next evolution of kink or BDSM for me was probably around the, let's say, 10 to 13-year-old mark. So at that time, I was a bit of a nerd. I was really into Japanese culture, anime, manga, all of that sort of stuff. I cosplayed a little bit. I was very embarrassed about it for a very long time, but as I've gotten older, I see that it was pretty cute. But inevitably, being a kid on the internet that was also into Japanese culture, some of the things that I ended up discovering went down slightly, I say perverted in a good way, interesting paths, maybe I would say. But I basically ended up stumbling across softcore porn at first through anime, through manga, which I then was very curious about, and things got a bit darker and dirtier quite quickly, and it evolved into full-blown hentai, to be perfectly honest. And at first I didn't even know what I was looking at, what I was watching, but I was so curious. There was definitely the sense of, I shouldn't be doing this. I know that there's something bad, or not that I think that now, but I know my parents wouldn't want to know what I was doing. And there would be points in time where I'd put it away, I'd close that tab and be like, I'm not going to look at that. I shouldn't be doing this. And then curiosity always got the better of me, and I'd be coming back a few days, maybe a week later. Oh, bless her soul, little Immy. But as I said, it got pretty hardcore pretty quickly, and that was the stuff that was drawing me in, that I was very curious about. And I had a sex talk in school. I'd probably around like 10 years old. We would have had that talk, but all we basically learned was like penis and vagina, that's how you make babies.
Also periods are a thing.
It was absolutely the case that none of what I was discovering on the internet was in the curriculum. So for a little while, the internet was my sex educator. Porn as well. And it definitely opened up a bit of a rabbit hole for me. I would definitely say I wouldn't recommend for this to be your introduction to sex, especially as a young child. But it was my introduction. And that is probably part of how I got to where I am today. And looking back and exploring my sexuality now, I definitely recognize that because I had such an extreme introduction to sex and to porn from a young age. I definitely had a skewed idea of sexuality by the time I was having sex age in my late teens. Definitely wasn't wanting to ease into things. I didn't have a strong sense of boundaries. I was probably seeking out things like degradation and humiliation, but definitely not knowing how to do that in a safe space. I actually remember before I'd even lost my virginity, because this was something that I wanted really bad, by the time I'd gotten a bit older, I'd explored sexuality a little bit more and masturbation, looked at a lot of porn. I was like, I really want this. I want to be submissive. I want to be dominated. I don't want to just have normal plain vanilla sex. That's really boring. I think that may actually be part of why I was never into anybody in high school. I had a few little crushes. I never wanted to pursue anything because I had all of these kinky things going on in my mind in high school. And I knew that if it ever came out, because obviously in a high school, word gets around about everyone. I think I had these thoughts of if I got into a relationship with someone, said I wanted this, and they had a bad reaction, everyone would know, and that would be social death. And I think as well, I didn't have a strong attraction to anybody. I wanted somebody dominant who knew what they were doing, who could take the lead. And I absolutely knew that no pimply-faced 16, 17, 18-year-olds could provide that. And I remember at this point, before I'd even lost my virginity, I remember Googling professional dominance and if that was something that I could go to either lose my virginity or just explore. And I remember looking up, and it wasn't even that expensive. I swear it was like $300 or something for like a session. And I remember having all of these thoughts of like, is that allowed? Is it too taboo? Like I wasn't even sure about the legalities of sex work, but clearly it was something that I wanted and I was researching. And maybe for a while, a lot of it was fantasy that I definitely wanted to turn into reality, but I didn't necessarily know how to do that, or maybe was too scared to try and make that happen. I even remember Googling it as a teenager because I was so scared to admit that this was something that I was into. I was like, how to know if somebody is a dominant, how to know if somebody's into kink. It felt like this big secret world where I couldn't tell anybody what I was into. And I'm so grateful now that I'm so transparent about what I want. When Andy and I are meeting girls together, we just say what we want. And some people are like, no, that's not my thing. And some girls are like, hell yeah, I'm really into that, want to try that. I'm super keen, and it's just so much easier. There's no drama. I'm grateful that we can do it that way. I probably wasn't even aware I was doing this, but when I got on Tinder at 18, I was definitely screening for somebody who could provide kink or something a little bit more exciting to me. But I absolutely would not recommend my approach of trying to meet people for kinky sex to anybody. If I was meeting a few strangers off Tinder, I had some pretty good luck. I only had nice experiences. I met one person off Tinder before I met Andy, and then I met Andy. And there you go. Andy has talked about it in content before, but he was very transparent that he was offering BDSM in his Tinder profile. It was in the bio. There was a picture relating to it. And I was straight on that. I was like, yep, that's what I want. Because obviously not very many people on Tinder are upfront about these things, but it made me finding what I want a lot simpler. I was very clumsy, had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but I wanted to explore some of these things. I was really submissive. I wanted to be submissive. I think one of the first things that Andy brings up sometimes is that I want to be a good girl for somebody. I think I said those words over text, and that was definitely that feeling that I was craving. I think daddy issues definitely played a part in that as well, but that was the need that I was trying to meet. And so Andy was the second person that I met and ended up being the person that I've now been seeing for 5.5 years. And it's been with him that we've been able to explore sex, explore kink, dive deep on what I like, and at the same time also develop an appreciation for the intimate, more vanilla things. I tried having vanilla sex a couple of times, and every time I did, the overwhelming sense was like, this is not satisfying. This is not what I want. I don't like this. At some point, I was actually a little bit worried that I had fucked my sexuality, like I wasn't capable of having normal sex. But it was only after I got into the relationship with Andy that I started opening up, being more intimate, learning how to be intimate, be vulnerable, and the idea became more appealing. But definitely for a while, I was just like, I am really kinky. I'm craving the domination, the being submissive, and that's the only way that I can have sexuality in my life. And again, I think a lot of that was just that was all I'd ever exposed myself to, that was intrinsically linked with sexuality. And of course, when you're used to having more extreme stuff, everything else seems bland. It's like if you pour tons and tons of sugar into everything you eat, if you start removing sugar from your diet, everything's going to taste like shit. And it's going to take a while of maybe just removing it to actually enjoy the more simple things in life. And so over the years, I've been able to explore so much. And I'm so grateful for that, to have such an open, non-judgmental space to do that. One thing that Andy and I actually did really early on is he suggested that I write a sexual bucket list. So basically a big long list of all of the different things that I was potentially into, that I wanted to try. And over the years, we've ticked them off. We still haven't even ticked all of them off as life has gotten busy. But that's the fun thing, is that there's so many things to explore and try, and things keep getting added to that sexual bucket list. And I'm excited to keep trying new things and see how I evolve sexually in my submission and what that looks like going forward. It's actually worth mentioning that even early on, I think sometimes what I thought I wanted was like a 24/7 BDSM lifestyle. Like I wanted to be constantly submissive, have a dominant, and that be my life, my relationship dynamic. And as I mentioned, because I think I had some daddy issues where a lot of my life or decisions had a lot of influence from other people, I wasn't sure if I was making my own decisions, and I don't think that craving was coming from a very healthy place. And so as I've worked on my confidence and explored myself, for me personally, and that's not going to be the case for everybody, but I've found just having kink and BDSM be a part of my sexual life is the right balance for me. Andy now makes jokes sometimes and calls me a brat because I'm a bit more playful and cheeky sometimes just in our day-to-day relationship. And he'll call me a brat. He'll say, "You're being such a brat. Imogen from 5 years ago would never have been like this." And that's true. I was ultra submissive. I struggled to look people in the eyes. I was scared of not being liked, of doing something wrong, of displeasing somebody. And I've embraced that. I've embraced not being perfect and come to terms with the fact that I don't need to submit to everybody around me. But it can still be something that I return to during sex as a catharsis, as a letting go, and something that helps me connect to a partner and be in the moment. But it's not my personality anymore. And that's been really positive for me. And that's been my journey as a submissive. I'm not even sure if you want to call it that, but I guess that's the origin story of my sexuality and how it started. And I've touched on how it evolved a little bit. Mostly self-indulgent. Not too sure if there's many learning lessons other than maybe don't get all of your sex education from the internet or hentai. And I mentioned a lot about this feeling weird or like I was doing something wrong as a kid, but I think as I've been able to explore it more and become more okay with what I'm into, it's not weird at all. It's just what I'm into. And even if some people do think it's weird, that's cool. As long as you're having fun, as long as everyone's having fun, why not enjoy yourself? So go out there, embrace being a little sex freak, and have a hell of a lot of fun. If any of this stuff intrigues you, whether that's content about sex, BDSM, relationships, that is absolutely something Andy and I can help you with. Andy has an amazing coaching program. I'm happy to be a part of that as much as you might want. I can personally coach you along with a great team of coaches to help explore all of your deepest, darkest, most amazing desires that you've always wanted to play out. We actually have a woman in the program at the moment who has always wanted to explore her kinkier side of her sexuality, has never given herself permission to do so, and now she's exploring being submissive, loving it, and giving herself the sex life that she has always wanted. So if you're interested to learn more about coaching, there will be a link to that in the description. But again, go out there, crush your goals, and have plenty of fun.